All right. Awesome. Well, let's kick it off. Thank you, everybody, for joining this evening. We're going to be talking about the 2025 Savannah Advanced Sake Brewers Certification Course. My name is Nick Lowry. I'm helping just from a logistical standpoint to sort of organize and facilitate the planning of this year's session. Let me give you just an overview here of what today's info session is going to include. From Andrew Centofonte, Savannah Chair and of North American Sake Brewery. We'll hear just an overview of the program, sort of some history, context, goals of the program at large. From Justin Potts from Origami Sake and one of the facilitators of this course. You'll hear more specifics about the course content itself, what you can expect to learn, engage with as you attend. And then lastly, from Shima Enomoto, Savannah member and also another facilitator of this program, you'll hear sort of the logistics, when to sign up, how to sign up, where you'll go, when you'll go, how to get there. Cool. With that, I will kick it off to Andrew to give us an overview of the program.
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Good. I made the switch over. It actually worked. Thanks everyone for being here. So just to kind of give you kind of broad pictures, the Sake Brewers Association North America is a nonprofit industry trade association with the goal of growing the sake industry. And one of the big conversations that I've had with many people over the years and was really the inception for this program was how do we get more hands-on and really Japanese brewing experience to North American brewers. And so we kind of had that goal in mind of how do we kind of provide some of that education to help increase the quality, to increase the reputation, and to increase the skill of brewers. And so we worked together initially with a few people, actually the people that are on this call, Justin Potts and Shima, kind of came in and helped us to build the programming here. And the goal was to really give that hands-on work in a production brewery in Japan. For a lot of brewers here, that's a really difficult thing to get. It's a difficult, you know, it's hard to build those relationships. It's hard to get to Japan, and it's hard to spend the time and get kind of the in-depth knowledge of hands-on brewing. So that was one of our big goals. And as we started to develop the program, we realized that, hey, there's a really great partnership that we were able to foster with Gakugura and Obata Shuzo on Sado Island. And so we brought, they have this incredible facility that's kind of like it's kind of like a test brewery or a small scale production brewery. And originally they built it with the intent of a more tourism drive, something more for people to come and to experience sake. And they also bring in a lot of, sake professionals like sake sommeliers and people in the restaurant industry. And so when we approached them, we very specifically said, we're looking for something that is more advanced than that, something that is going to really have people who are already committed to the brewing industry be involved in the program. So, what can we do to kind of push this to the next level? And they've been incredibly gracious in helping us to develop a program that is suited for commercial sake brewers. And alongside that, we realized that there was a big opportunity to increase the knowledge base by bringing in experts and other brewers and owners to researchers, equipment manufacturers. We had an opportunity to bring them all together to increase the knowledge share. And it's kind of goes both ways. It's not just about us trying to learn from the Japanese side, but it's also the Japanese side learning about how we are doing production here in the US. There's a lot of back and forth that was designed as part of this program so that people could share their experiences with each other and better understand the problems that are facing US producers versus Japanese producers. Another thing that we kind of knew right off the bat as well was that um, each group, each cohort of individuals is going to have different levels of knowledge and experience and skill. And so we really wanted to make sure that this wasn't some rigid curriculum, but it was actually going to be something that we could custom develop for the people who are going to meet the needs and meet their goals, so that they don't, have a time wasted on a trip. It's going to be custom put together for these people. And then finally, one of our big goals from kind of an association perspective is how do we create international connections between North American brewers and Japanese brewers to, promote this kind of uh, uh, communication across the ocean. And so that was a big goal is to help people create lifelong relationships through that. Um, And so, sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up here, but it looks like. So to go to kind of the program overview, which has been up on the screen for a little while, and we talked a little bit about already, but Gakugura um, as a facility where we spend a good amount of time with hands-on brewing with the Toji and the other brewery workers, um, and allows for an environment where people can be working, but at the same time asking questions. Luckily, we have incredible interpreters from Justin Potts with his brewing knowledge and Shima, who do an incredible job of real-time translation and real-time, responses uh, that really helps to enrich the experience. It's not just, okay, guys, we're making koji now, and we make koji for, 20 minutes. I don't think there was a moment, at least during my experience, I was lucky enough to go on our first round, where there wasn't conversation happening throughout. Detailed questions about what we are doing at this moment, why we are doing it, and having that dialogue and really getting a lot of insiders' perspective on how they approach different problems or different pieces of the production. So it's a really, really incredible mix of structured work and hands-on and questions and discussions in the brewery. So the next slide is a little bit of a overview of Gakugura. Is there sound? I'm not hearing any sound. Nice. Um, and so to kind of go off to the next kind of piece of the program and the goal of the program is really to get these in-depth conversations going with Tojis and other experts from, like we mentioned, equipment manufacturers or researchers. And so I think one is that we do have brewery visits scheduled in as part of the experience. Usually several. And these are different than I would say your typical, sake brewery tours. These are an opportunity to sit down and have really incredible dialogues with these owners, researchers, and other industry experts. And so far, they've been extremely open and willing to share their knowledge with our participants. Just as an example, like this is a picture of the Toji of Amaya Tsukasa, where we were actually looking at recipes and fermentation curves in detail, and talking about the intention and the goal of some of these recipes and how they were able to use the recipe itself or the style of fermentation to achieve those goals. Really an incredible experience. In addition to going to several other breweries and speaking with Tojis, we also bring people to Gakogura to participate in some of the hands-on, but to really have more um, sit down opportunity to go into detail on some of the nitty gritty of sake brewing, whether that is sitting down with Dr. Aoki of the Niigata Research Institute, or sitting down with people like Kyoto Electric's manufacturer to look at some of their equipment and talk about some of the lab work. There's a lot of opportunities to sit down with these experts and to learn directly from the source. Just want to go to the next slide. Um, and then, like I mentioned, it's participant driven. We want to make sure that this is valuable for you. One of our kind of metrics is, are you going to be able to get back to your brewery and, make substantial change and increase the quality of your production right off the bat? Um, and I think that I can say pretty confidently that everyone that I've spoken to comes back on fire with ideas on how they might integrate some of this experience into their day-to-day brewing. And so, um, that's a big piece of this. And so working with Justin and Shima and our partners in Japan, leading up to the experience, there'll be a lot of information sharing. And by again allowing the Japanese breweries and other researchers understand some of the problems or approaches that we are taking here in North America, it gives them a better idea of how to help or to share insights. And so by sharing that knowledge, we're able to create a really fantastic dialogue. We've also been able to do some pretty incredible sensory evaluations. So um, participants bringing sake with them to be tasted and to be talk about the um, quality or other sensory pieces of their sake has been really, really incredible. And so I think that um, from our perspective, again, we want this to be something that is extremely valuable. And it's kind of one of those things like the more you give to the program, the more you're going to get from that program. So we, again, beforehand working on information and setting goals and trying to understand some of the problems that you're trying to solve will only help us further down the line. The next slide. And then finally, trying to help develop international support network and cross promote sake. This is just a bigger goal of, how do we connect our love of this beverage. And so giving North American brewers the opportunity to connect with others in the Japanese industry. Um, and also, fostering networks of different individuals or different organizations. In past years, we've had the opportunity to visit places like um, the JSS, or the Japan Sake and Sochu Makers Association, as well as other places like Koikai or the Sakeology program at the Niigata uh, University. And so the idea is that we can continue to foster and build these relationships so that we have more and more opportunities to work together to help improve sake knowledge, sake consumption across the board. Um, and then, additionally, the program isn't all hands-on brewing work. It's not all classroom, uh, discussions, but there's also a lot of opportunity to sit down and have fantastic dinners with the people that we meet along the way. For example, this is a picture of Hiroshima-san of Gakugura, talking about some of the intricacies of sake brewing over a meal where we shared sake together. Um, so there's a lot of opportunity for that, as well as an opportunity to really just be fully embedded in Japanese culture and in Japan, which I think is something that a lot of people are also looking for the opportunity to do. If you haven't had a chance to go to Japan and learn sake brewing from a Japanese brewery, this is a fantastic opportunity to do so. And so again, just trying to, use this as our opportunity and springboard to continue building relationships and strengthening those partnerships. And so now I'll pop it over to Justin, who I think is going to do a little bit more of an in-depth of the day-to-day and itinerary around the program.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And good evening, everybody who took time to join us on this call this evening. Very much appreciated. Real quick, what you're seeing in front of you is a tentative outline of what the time in Japan will look like. This is reflective of what it's been the past couple of years. So this year will be the third year doing this program. Day one is generally your arrival day. Usually we'll gather for dinner. Day two is generally a travel day, seeing as a majority of the program does take place in Niigata. A lot of times on this day, there's also some sort of a visit in the morning or in Tokyo. Previously, Andrew alluded to visits to the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association or to the Brewing Society of Japan. It's a great networking opportunity, and it's a great opportunity for members of the North American Sake Brewers Association to interface as representatives. That's something we often try and integrate into the trip as well too, as opposed to just going to learn to create those opportunities to by repeatedly going back and paying those visits demonstrate that we are very much indeed committed to the work that we're doing. Once we travel to Niigata, day 2, 3, 4, 5, generally about those 3 or 4 days. And there is when we're doing a combination of site visits and lectures, whether they be breweries or other related facilities or educational institutions. Following that, we head for Gakko-gura over on Sado Island. And then the Gakko-gura component of the program is a week long. That is a combination of hands-on brewing work, brewery work, as well as a series of lectures that we have organized, followed by a return to Tokyo. I'll let Shima get into more of the details of that, of this year's more detailed itinerary, but that should give you a pretty good idea as to generally how the week plays out while we're there. This is just a couple examples of previous visits, lectures, lecturers, areas of focus. Last year, we had the opportunity to first visit Niigata University, which is the home of the very first. What they do is it's a multifaceted certificate as a professional in the world of sake. So it has a focus on brewing management, a lot of different components. Last year, we put together a one-day program where we had a number of guest lectures focusing on a number of topics. Some of it was sensory, some of it was looking at yeast research, a number of different things. The plan at this point in time is to pay that visit again. And we got some pretty exciting things that we're working on. I look forward to sharing those very soon. Gakko-gura, obviously that is where we spend a majority of our time. This would be an example of one of the topics there, is we do go into detail as to the setup of that brewery and the construction of that brewery. I know a lot of the people who are participating either were responsible for setting up and figuring out how to put their brewery together in the first place, or they're in a position where they're having to construct and think about the construction of their brewery. So to actually sit down with them and work through the thought process behind how things were spec'd out, what sort of equipment was chosen and why and for what purpose. It's proven to be a really helpful component of the course. Below that, Dr. Aoki of the Niigata Prefectural Sake Research Institute. So this organization provides advice to basically all of the breweries in Niigata. So any brewery in Niigata who's looking to develop new products or use new techniques or try to better understand what options and choices are available to them, either in product development or in times of trouble. This is the organization that they would go to. And so the head of that research institute the last 2 years has come and spent a couple of days with us. And we've put together sort of a combination of a broad strokes program, as well as something that integrates a lot of highly specific things. So his program covers sake making from start to finish, essentially, in relatively broad strokes. But at the same time, this sort of back to the pre-prep that Andrew had sort of alluded to, is what we really try and do is, prior to visiting, meet regularly with that cohort and try and figure out the goals and challenges of that group. And what we're able to do is provide areas of interest, focus, challenge, say, to Dr. Aoki in advance. And then what he's done in the past is put together very specific, detailed information on certain topics. So whether it be detailed mathematics on steam generation, or ice calculations, or working with different types of molto and the production of those, or last year we got even into like ikigajikomi, or these high temp, speedy saccharification things. And so things that were very specific to the questions that that a lot of the participants needed answers to, or were looking for answers to, but weren't able to find good resources for. KEM, Kyoto Electronics Manufacturing, looking at analysis. You see a picture of Narita-san there, who's standing in the bottom right. So he previously worked with a company called Shinyo Giken Kogyo. However, he was a high-level brewer himself for a very long time as well. And what that company is they're a equipment both manufacturer and supplier. And so they have, by bringing them in, they're able to address a lot of equipment issues. Last year, for example, a big topic was sparkling sake, carbonated sake. So what he did is he brought in some things that they have on offer, but then also explained the details behind the solution. How does that work and why? And so that if the things that they brought, if that was something that interested you, great. But even if you weren't in a position to necessarily purchase that equipment, you have the critical information available to you for how that process is done, so that you can go back and try and replicate that as well. Akita Kono was great last year. They joined us as of last year. And the nice thing about them is, aside from Koji, is that was the first year. After the first year, that was one of the things that everybody said they wanted to focus more on. And so the folks at Akita Kono were kind enough to raise their hand and come help us out. But the nice thing about working with them is they also have a fantastic yeast program as well. And they're very proactive about working with North American brewers and breweries. So they were able to address sort of two major topics that were of particular interest to our brewers, our visiting brewers. And then together with the lectures, so those lectures are pretty much every day. They'll be sort of interspersed throughout the day, together with hands-on experience. Obviously, everybody who's coming to visit in this program has experience making sake, so they're bringing a certain degree of experience and knowledge with them. However, as Andrew also mentioned earlier, in addition to working through the process, the way that this brewery was designed is it was designed for educational purposes. It is a commercial. the brewery is commercially producing sake. However, it wasn't designed as a major commercial endeavor in terms of production. It was designed to have small cohorts come in and be a part of the process and have the bandwidth to be able to, as you said, ask questions, dig into topics in the moment, which is for those who have gone and spent time in breweries, if they've had the opportunity to go and say visit in a winter and spend a couple days or a week in a brewery, you're often, you'd be thrown right into the thick of it, which is a fantastic experience. And there's a great deal to be learned from that. However, the amount of time and energy available to sit down and address the questions in the moment is usually that's a huge challenge. And so that's something where we've been able to put together here. So obviously you're seeing a great lot of the process. We are, of course, only there for a week. So are you going to be able to make a batch of sake from start to finish? You are not. But Obata Shuzo and Gakogoro, they do a really fantastic job of providing information on the sake that we are working on, of the things that we had missed, as well as if similar sakes had been made in the past. They provide information, data, experience, insight into that sake and into that experience in the past, and then what's changing this year based on what previous experiences and things of that nature. Generally, the focus, we will do Sandan Chikomi. You will see that part through. There will be koji production for that. Depending on the timing, there could be shubo making integrated. It's kind of a timing thing. We're working on exactly where that's going to land this year. And then other thing, the post-processing components are going to be a little bit different. Those are things that are kind of up to timing, as you would know. They may or may not be pressing the sake right as we are there. So there are certain things that are just going to be sort of up to timing and luck. But we do go through and in the lecture parts of the program, look at those processes and get into those in detail. And then the parts that we don't necessarily get to see, we look at there, as well as in other parts of our other brewery visits. And then on the front half of the trip, occasionally one or two of these things gets plugged in at the end after the Gakogura visit. But we do visit other breweries as a part of the program as well. Up top are the breweries we visited in the past. Obata Shuzo is the brewery that owns and operates Gakogura, so their main brewery. Ishimoto Shuzo, they're the makers of Koshino Kanbai. Imayote Kasa Shuzo, a small sort of boutique brewery in Niigata, and then Lagoon Brewery is sort of a new generation brewery. If anybody's familiar with the recent craft sake movement sort of in Japan, they are one of the handful of breweries that are engaging in that, and that's a nice visit because that's their operation is also similar to the scale of a lot of startup breweries in the US and other places outside of Japan. The nice thing about each of these is each of these sort of has a theme, because these are four very different breweries. While they are great at all the things that they do, because of the scale, the style, their location, their resources, their approach, their philosophy, there are certain things that they excel at in ways that that are unique and different from the other breweries. So we sort of cater. These breweries are selected with that in mind, so we can dig into details that are very specific to the strengths of those breweries. And so that's proven really, really helpful in the past and be able to get that level of perspective. Down below, you see there, Niigata Sakamai Seimai. If anyone's familiar with the folks at Ida Group, who are also Sake Association members. This is another major business of theirs, is sake rice milling, and one of their major facilities is up in Niigata. And while obviously nobody is most likely going to be using rice from Japan, getting the opportunity to visit and see the process that actually goes into not just milling rice, but sourcing, storing, cleaning, sorting, and digging into details, all of the information that is gathered and taken into consideration in providing a quality rice supply is actually really, really, really critical, and something that we desperately need to work on and develop further in the US. So to be able to give everybody the perspective of where the standard is and what sort of information is critical in order to help us develop that standard is really, really helpful. So that's been really nice in the past, because then everybody coming back then also knows, oh, these are the questions to ask. These are the things that we want to know. And so that's proven really helpful. Like I said, Andrew mentioned earlier, industry partners, the Brewing Society of Japan, the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association, getting in touch with these types of organizations has over time led to new opportunities and further communicates our commitment, not just to the program, but to sake and to the category as a whole. There are a lot of things that we are able to do outside of Japan on our own. There are things that, together with Japan, would arguably be more mutually beneficial. And so some of these visits are an opportunity to further nurture that relationship. And so those are also things that we see as important. Community building, yes, but also important learning components in and of themselves. All right. I think that's what I'm going to share here for the moment. And what I'll do is I will pass it over to Shima, who every year does an exemplary job organizing this whole mess. I'll pass it over to her, and she will talk a little bit about sort of the logistics and the itinerary, kind of where it's shaping at this point, to the degree that we're able to share, and then give you some information about steps going forward for those interested.
Okay, thank you, Justin. My name is Shima Enomoto, and I'm very happy to be here. And you guys, thank you for sharing the time with us to learn about this great program. So first, I will just explain the itinerary. Justin mentioned it before, but I'm going to do more logistics part. Day one, from North America, you arrive in the evening, so you only have just a few hours on that day. So it's important to get together, see each other, and then dive into the program. That's a day one. Day two and day 6. This is a travel day, but it's not just the traveling. We were trying to insert something on top of that, so it's going to be more than travel day. But this program is based in Niigata. Niigata is a prefecture, and Sado Island is off the coast of Sea of Japan, from the Niigata prefecture, part of the Niigata prefecture. And Niigata is very well known for pristine, great sake, and also they have a culture of sharing the information with the brewers. They have a Niigata Seishu University, and that's a great sort of a culture. We enjoyed sharing their information to US brewers, or rather North American brewers. So anyway, we traveled to Niigata by bullet train. And day 3, day 4, it's not just sit-down lectures, but the lectures and the hands-on program, meaning Andrew mentioned about there's a lab in Niigata University, and they are going to let us experience some of all those works there as well. And the topic of the lectures include brewing science too, like water or rice, from many different aspects. Again, there is a sort of room for creating, inputting what you need to learn there as well. And day 5 visits to breweries, there will be 2 there. So I am trying to insert one more, either day 2 or day 6 at this point, but definitely 2 brewers in a day 5. And day 6, travel to Gakogura. Last year, what we did was on that traveling day to Sado Island, we take a ferry from Niigata's city port to Sado Island, and then we went directly to the rice paddies where Gakogura get the rice from. So that was a kind of interesting time to see actual field work, that's the word they used in the video that Nick showed you. And day 7 to 13, Justin already explained it to you. This is a sort of a good mixture of hands-on and the lectures. And normally, we don't even have time to go out for lunch, but we can arrange, depending on Q&A. No, last 2 years, there's just too many questions to answer. So we just sat and I just brought a bento, meaning a boxed lunch, and then the session continued almost every day, actually, yeah. So it was really fun. And also Gakogura has a cafe. And it's a greatest view. Maybe you peeked a view at in the video, but it's a wonderful place. And they use sake yeast to create interesting recipes. So it might be another interest for you. And day 14 is just one return to Tokyo date. So everybody talking about the professional experienced brewers to learn from Japanese sort of brewing environment. So what is experienced? That's a difficult question because everybody has a different background, different level of years of experience. So, but we had those year 1, year 2, both. Not necessarily every single one of them is the same. Some has been to Japan, some may never been to Japan. But at the end of the day, asking questions like what Justin did, and then creating all those classes to suit their need. So we can accommodate many different people, we believe. So if you have a real question about what is experience they need to apply, you can ask Nick. There will be information about who to ask the question to, and he can answer it. Or rather, if we are open to applications are open to everyone. So let us show your passion, your willingness to commit to this sake brewing world. And the dates from here, we are number 2 right now. So the important day for you is number 4, application deadline, which is 18th of March. And we are trying to decide as soon as possible, early April, so that we can prepare to tailor-make the class for the participants. Yeah. And course fee, I will go from a program fee. Esbana members, 3,800, and the non-members, 4,100. Those includes certification from the very qualified institution. And I cannot reveal the name at this point because of the logistics, but I can do that hopefully soon. And all trainings and all the programming that Andrew and Justin mentioned are all included, and the brewery's visit. In terms of transportation, domestic one is included, meaning you arrive internationally and from Tokyo to Niigata, Niigata to Sado, from Sado to back to Niigata, Niigata to Tokyo. If you're attaching other journey after the trip, we can sort of help you to get to the next place within a cost. And accommodations, first night to Tokyo, and 4 nights in Niigata, and the rest of it is in Sado Island. And group meals at the beginning, welcome meals will be included, and farewell meals will be included. I may try to incorporate the box lunch as well. So, one important thing is we want you to have insurance just in case, because when the program was launched just as sort of after the COVID time, so it was really it was much more important at that time. But I think it's a good idea to get the basic insurance just in case. And, when we pay the premium, you normally do not get involved any incidents. So it's a kind of bringing luck insurance too. So we will include that. Yes. Okay. And scholarships are again available this year for fee to be covered for the 3,200, which will cover most of the Esbana members' tuition, or rather the course fee. So the qualifications, there are 3 of them: Esbana members in good standing, and also demonstrate the need for financial support, or all those things, and the scholarship application, there is a place you can write about. So please do write about it, because before we go into a interviewing process, the most important thing is you fill this one out and explain. So regular application also, we read very carefully as well. And both of them, regular application, scholarship application, both need to be done by 18th March, next month. Yeah. I think this is it for me, from me. Back to
Yeah.
Nick.
Yes, thank you, Shima. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, all of you, for watching, for sharing your time with us, so that we could share this program with you. Just from my perspective, not only just organizing and helping facilitate the behind scenes of this presentation, but having participated in the first cohort as well, I can say to everything that Justin and Andrew have shared about how fundamentally changing this process was for me as a brewer, to bring that knowledge back and actually put it into place. I really cannot stress enough that at any level of brewer, you will gain something from this program. So, to Shima's point, if you are interested, if you are considering, throw your hat in the ring, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about this beverage that we all love so much and that we want to make better across the world. So, you will be able to find links to the applications that Shima mentioned on sakeassociation.org. If you're watching the recording of this, we'll also have those available in the description. If you have any questions about the application process, about the program itself, feel free to reach out to me at nick@sakeassociation.org. If I can't answer the question for you, I'll direct you to one of the members on our team that can. And then once again, the important dates for you are down below, with a big stress on March 18th. Get those applications in.